In the mid-'80s, the CD came along and it killed off the vinyl record. In the early 2000s, digital music, downloads, and eventually streaming came along and killed off the CD. But they're both surging again. How and why? It's physical media coming back to the mainstream's attention. That's what we will discuss on this episode of Talking About Records. My name is G.I. Sanders from NTX Vinyl, small chain of independent record shops in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. If you're not local, but you are in the U.S., you can shop online at ntxvinyl.com. Please follow us on Facebook and Instagram and subscribe on YouTube. Are vinyl LPs and CDs here to stay? I think they are. I really do think they are. I'm curious to see if the masses agree with me. It's unbelievable to read through some of the statistics in this most recent report, which I'll put up. I'll put the link in the description. In 2021, both vinyl and CDs made huge gains. Vinyl surpassed $1 billion in revenue for the first time in 35 years, and CD sales jumped for the 21% versus the previous year. Let's talk about that. Vinyl surged and grew for the 15th straight year to surpass $1 billion. Revenues grew 61% just of vinyl records. The last time vinyl exceeded $1 billion was in 1986, and vinyl accounted for 63% of total revenues of physical formats. Now, let me put that in perspective. 83% of the entire music industry, the revenues that make up the entire music industry, 83% is from streaming. So we're still talking about a niche. Physical formats are not 50-50. They're not, in my opinion, going to ever get back to that. But even at 17%, again, streaming is 83%. So if there's 17% left for vinyl, for tapes, for CDs, whatever physical format, that's a significant chunk of a multi-billion-dollar industry. And what that means is record labels, major record labels, independent labels, artists, they've all got to pay attention to it. And that's what's happening right now. That's why we're seeing the growth, is because they realize that there is demand for it, because there are people like me and there are people like you who collect physical media, and they realize that we need to give the people what they want, right? It's amazing. So let's talk about CDs. So CDs rebounded. 2020 was a horrible year for CDs because obviously retail was really hit hard because of the pandemic. But 2021, revenues from CDs grew 21% to $584 million. The first year-over-year increase in CD sales since 2004. So not only is vinyl coming back, CDs are coming back as well. It's very interesting to see. And I really do think it has to do with the fact that people are starting to find an appreciation again for physical things. Whether you point to the pandemic and the fact that people are at home and trying to just, get into new hobbies and starting collecting new things, something to keep them busy, right? I think that definitely plays a part of it for some collectors who have gotten into this in the last couple of years. But in general, I just think the idea that most everything that we used to do in regards to physical things has been sucked into our phone as an app, right? And so music is one of those things where you have the opportunity now to actually engage with it in physical form. You can own it instead of renting. It's not a subscription service. You own that CD or you own that record and you put it on your shelf. And then when you want to play it, you have to physically go choose it and put it, in a CD player on a turntable, right? So that kind of ritual, that aesthetic that goes along with a physical thing, it's just starting to gain importance again. And it's really exciting to see on a human level that people are caring about that again. Again, it's a niche. Maybe it stabilizes around 15 to 20%. That's enough. Like that's enough to make a difference. That's enough to give the business of physical media longevity, right? Maybe we get to 20% over the next year or two. And again, if it can stabilize there, which I think it can based on current demand and the inability to even meet that demand, it feels doable. It feels feasible that the music industry can sustain with 20% physical and maybe 80% on the streaming side. And it's incredible. I mean, there was a stat in here on the streaming where it says over 60,000 streaming tracks are uploaded to a single streaming service, regardless if it's Apple Music or Spotify or Pandora or Tidal, whatever. Every single day, 60,000 tracks are uploaded to a single service every single day. And really, that was the most, the most eye-opening stat, because that's what speaks to the validity of the physical format. Because the streaming formats are completely overwhelming. 60,000 new tracks a day. It puts Netflix to shame, when you go and you just get burnt out because you don't know what to choose. Think about that from the music standpoint. Like when you go into your streaming app, 60,000 new tracks a day. How can you even comprehend that? There is just too much to sort through, too much to search through. It doesn't matter how good they are at recommending, music that you might enjoy based off other artists and things. The algorithms, they're doing the best they can, but there's simply too much volume of that content. So again, the physical side of it completely flips that on its head and says, hey, you should only own what you can A, afford, and what you B, have space for. So it provides these constrictions around you as a consumer because, nobody has, or most people don't have unlimited income to where they can buy every, vinyl record or every CD or every tape that they want. And then even if they could, would they have the space for all of it? Probably not on either of those, which means you have guardrails and you got to actually spend your money and spend your time on what you really appreciate and what you really love. And that appreciation and that love then turns into value, and you actually value what's on your shelf. And then you're like, man, I really like that. I should continue to do that and build that collection out a little more. So that takes your attention away from the scrolling, endless scrolling of the 60,000 tracks a day on your streaming service, which you can't even keep up with, right? And so it's just a really eye-opening report for me. I thought it was interesting, and I just wanted to share it with you guys. The data is very clear that this thing can be real, that it can sustain. I do not think physical media is ever going to get back to a place where it was in the 60s, 70s, 80s, or even the 90s with the CDs. I do not see that. And I'm okay with that because I love streaming music. I love the convenience of getting in my car and being able to choose one of hundreds or thousands of albums in my library. That's amazing. The convenience of that is unmatched. But when I actually want to pay attention to music, when I'm actually in my home, I want to actually sit and consume an entire album as it was meant to be heard by the artist, then I'll choose a physical format. For me, that physical format is vinyl records, obviously. For many people, that's still CDs. Some people that collect tapes, whatever it may be. I'm not here to debate the formats against each other. I think there's value in all of them. What I'm really just here to say is that I'm optimistic about the future. I really am. I think it's I think for me, as someone who's really invested in this, not only on the business side, but personally being a collector for 20 years, I mean, I've obviously got so much time and energy and passion invested in this that it's just exciting to see that I'm not alone. It really is. I'd love to hear your feedback on this. If this data says the same thing to you as it says to me, let me know your thoughts. I'll pop up a few other videos, so you guys stick around on the channel if you don't mind. Really appreciate the continued support, and we'll see you again next time on another episode of Talking About Records.